It's a beautiful beginning of the weekend, and so today on Friday, let's do yet again another Transformers Slag Patreon listener question. Once again, if you want to be part of the Transformers Slag Patreon, help support the podcast, let us know we're doing a half-decent job in the daily news and education of the Transformer world. Patreon.com/Protoman. What does that get you? Depending on what tier, the end credit scrolls, you get your name slapped right on there for everyone to see. Come join us on the Discord if you're part of the Patreon. Hang out in the Discord, talk Transformers, share sales, share news, break the news, and then some. Great Discord we got there. Also, again, depending on what tier, you get a little gift basket in the mail, maybe a little something, or even a Patreon listener question. We got a Patreon listener question here from Kahuna Prime, one of our new patrons that just joined recently, and he has a big one here. Giggity. Hey Proto, got a question for you. I've just come back to the fandom after a long time away. Well, welcome back. I'm working on a display of all my original G1 toys. I have still some of them from when I was a kid, and I want to match them with modern equivalencies. I have my original complete G1 Powermaster Optimus Prime and was looking for a good modern interpretation to display alongside with them. I'm not a fan of the current Titan Returns version, but I do like the Japanese Super Ginrai one. However, it seems to be very pricey on the secondary market. While I'd be happy to pay £100, 100 pounds would be about 140 USD. I would take a ballpark in that, 140 USD. Let me just go over that again. I'm happy to pay about £100 to get it, but I was wondering if there was any newer versions I could look forward to in the future, considering the Titans Return version was in 2016. Actually, if I remember correctly, I think it's 2016 was right. 2017 was another one I'm thinking of. Is there any Powermaster Prime trademarks? And do you think it's due for renewal? I don't want to spend £100 on a version and then we get an updated one that's way better in terms of engineering and design. Thanks for all the great content you do, and thank you for your time, Kahuna Prime. Well, thank you for the kind words, Kahuna Prime, and welcome back to the plastic crack world of the Transformer fandom. Hope you stick around. I hope you learn some stuff here on the podcast. So to jump into, there's a few things here I do want to address. Number one, the current Titans Return one. You have quite a few options with that one. That mold that you're not too much of a fan of. You said you liked the Super Ginrai version, which came from Transformers Legends. So essentially that mold, which came from the Ultra Magnus mold, is quite an extensive retool of that. It has the Powermaster Optimus Prime version, which even I agree with you isn't that good looking. The standalone leader class one has that weird armor in the front. I don't know what they were really trying to do with that. Then they did their Magnum Prime version, which came in that Siege of Cybertron box set, which I believe, if I remember correctly, goes for like $175 now. So that's pretty pricey. So that's already kind of out of your price range, because $175 is about, I want to say 125 British pounds, something like that. And then, of course, you have the two different versions, the Super Ginrai version, the standalone one, and then the God Ginrai set, which is really nice. And that goes for crazy money now, that one. So needless to say, judging by your budget here, those are all kind of out of it. So the next thing I want to address is what you mentioned here is trademarks. Now, the Powermaster trademark was a thing with Hasbro back in 1988. When you look at the original Powermaster Optimus Prime or any of those old Powermasters, one of my favorite characters is a Powermaster. You have one of these things where it's Powermaster trademark and then the name of the character trademark. So there was an educated attempt to keep that Powermaster trademark because it was the gimmick across the line, and who knows, could potentially be a gimmick for many years to come. They didn't know, Hasbro at the time, how the fandom would receive Powermasters in 1988 with a blossoming Ninja Turtles just around the corner to take away all that attention. But needless to say, the Powermaster trademark was present there, but as time progressed, Hasbro abandoned it and really has not trademarked it since. I mean, to give you an example of how much they didn't care about it, when they did the Heroes of Cybertron PVC line, this was, I want to say back in 2003, 2004, They had a Powermaster Optimus Prime with Apex Armor PVC figure, which was the God Ginrai Powermaster figure, or Godmaster figure in this case. If you look at the trademarking on that one, Powermaster, no trademark. Optimus Prime has a trademark. And then Apex Armor had a trademark. Not even Powermaster, Apex Armor had a trademark. Why? Because Hasbro was actually going to use that trademark later on. We got the Western release of the God Ginrai box set reissue Western version, and had the Apex Armor, which was the Western name of the God Bomber. Either way, don't want to go too deep into that. But so the point is that they kind of gave up on that. And even the one you're referring to here, the Titans Return version, it's called Powermaster Optimus Prime with Autobot Apex. Apex gets a trademark, Optimus Prime gets a trademark, but not Powermaster. And so much so that they don't care about using that Powermaster trademark that, I mean, probably the latest Powermaster-esque character we got was, correct me if I'm wrong, Earthrise Double Dealer, the leader class. And there's no Powermaster trademark or Powermaster written anywhere on that, which would have been an opportunity for them if they cared to protect it. So what I'm trying to get at is I wouldn't worry or think too much about the Powermaster trademark and the 4-year renewal and then another 4 years of sitting, hoping for a product to come out, because I don't think that's really something that you have to think about. The fact that we'll get a Powermaster figure again, if that ever happens, will be more if Hasbro just wants to do it, not so much because of a trademark. The trademark isn't going to be the pushing factor, and even if there was a pushing factor of a Powermaster trademark, it wouldn't just fall on Optimus Prime. They could do Slapdash, they could do, like I said, Double Dealer, or any of those guys, and just throw it on there, and it buys them another 4 years, and dare I say 6 years if you really want to stretch it. So it's something that I wouldn't really fall on that. But that being said, you do have options. Again, if we're talking something that's comparable in nature of transformation and size, because I'm not going to suggest like PVC figures that don't transform or little model kits by Kabaya. There's pretty much those 4 different takes from Titans Return. Again, the Magnum Prime, the Powermaster Optimus Prime, which is terrible, that one. And then the 2 different versions of Ginrai that were available in the Transformer Legends line, LG EX and then LG 35. So there's those. And then the only other one that I could see probably happening in the foreseeable future is maybe one day we might get a Masterpiece, God Ginrai or Super Ginrai. I could see that potentially happening one day. Might not happen tomorrow, might not happen in 5 years, but I do see it probably being in the cards, considering we got a Star Saber and we got some of the other guys from the later Generation 1 stuff. If you don't want to wait, and I know I don't talk about these guys much on the internet here, and especially on the podcast, but third party is an option. I believe it was Fans Hobby did their MB06 Power Baser. I'm so bad with the third-party names. I think it's called Power Baser, which is their version of Powermaster Optimus Prime. And if I remember correctly, that goes for about $200, $210. So that's about 150 British pounds, 152 British pounds, about that much. So again, kind of out of your budget, but I mean, this is also something more of a masterpiece-esque kind of flavor. So you would be paying more for something that's comparable in terms of parts, pieces, and quality. So that's, again, other options there. But outside of that, in terms of like what the future would give us, would we see this character done in retail again? I don't know. I mean, we got with Legacy, now we're doing Laser Rod. They're kind of doing the rounds. How many different primes could we do? For all we know, the next time we get another, let's say, Voyager to Leader Class Optimus Prime toy, it might be an Armada version. It might be an Energon version. It might be a Cybertron version again, which they did with Siege. They actually revisited that design. It might be a movie design. It might be a Transformers Prime design, which the rumors are kicking around with that. It might be animated. Oh my God, imagine if it was animated. So for them to kind of roll around back to that Powermaster design, or even if they want to really go crazy, Combat Hero or Action Master, there's so many wacky ways they could go about it, because they do want to keep doing an Optimus Prime and putting an Optimus Prime in the main lines of all of these things. We've seen that already in the past, but it's just all about what design they want to do. That's the whole thing. But again, I feel if I had to take a guess, where would he pop up next? That design, I think Masterpiece and Takara would probably be the next place that we'd probably see it. I think what we got through Legends and the two different shots in Legends and the two different, and I use air quotes here, shots in Titan's Return, I think that was the conserved effort to make that character in a modern setting, and probably won't be revisited for a while. Much like how, look, we got the laser Optimus coming in Legacy. The last time we saw that design really was a silly kind of Titan's Return forced repaint, and before that it got its own standalone mold during the Generations line, and those were we're talking a gap of 5 years each apart, so it's quite a bit. So it's something where settle in, get ready for the next half decade, and maybe you'll see something. But I really think a Masterpiece would probably happen before that, if anything. But that's just my take. I mean, just based on what I've seen in the past, where how they revisit some of these classic characters and try to do different designs. And Optimus, because he had so many different body types, they could always revisit that character and do a different spin visually, as opposed to, say, a Hot Rod or a Jazz or something where they're just kind of reinventing the wheel ever so slightly. So that's why I don't think they're going to revisit Powermaster in the next super near future. And again, there's no trademark to worry about, so there's no reason for them to rush that either, let alone across any other Powermaster trademarks. It's just Joyride on its own. It's just Slapdash on its own. It's just, Double Dealer on its own now. So, not to mention, I think the Powermaster trademark right now is being used by a massage apparatus company, giggity. So, who knows what's going to be happening with that. But that's a whole other story. So I hope that answers that question a little bit. I know it sounds like a little bit of a downer, but it's the best that I could kind of take from it and give you the logical answer based on the current legal with Hasbro and what's going on in terms of the logic of product that's out currently, or the stuff that's been out in the past 4 to 5 years. So yeah, hope that helps a little bit, Kahuna Prime. And if you want to be like Kahuna Prime and join the Patreon, help support the podcast, and rock out with the robots in the skies, like I always say, patreon.com/Protoman, or check the pinned comment or description below. And I hope to see you tomorrow, Saturday night, on the live stream, where we'll be hanging out and breaking some news and talking about some news and taking some super chats. So I'll see you then.